This is exactly the same as the quad just ran. It's a pre-programmed, fully autonomous mission. It's a takeoff, a loiter at 30 feet for an unlimited amount of time. The quad didn't do so well. When the battery alarm went off, it basically hit the ground before I could do a return to launch, a land, or whatever. This was the same program, except for I have the transmitter set to tell me when 10 minutes goes by, alarm at the 10-minute mark, and that's the end of my mission. So at the end of this 10 minutes, I put it back into stabilized mode to also check I had changed the throttle setting for hover so that I had a hover of about 50%, which I'm used to setting so I don't accidentally go from a controlled mode into stabilized mode at a throttle setting lower than it hovers at. As you'll see at the end, it did go up a little bit. There was also another problem during the 10 minutes. It seemed to start out at 30 feet, and the quad pretty much stayed at 30 feet. That all has to do with the barometers. There is a ultrasonic sensor on the quad, but it's only good to 22 feet, so it was above that. I'm going to go back and look at the data on both, but flame wheel kept getting lower and lower and lower, and I really had to keep my finger on the switch to go from auto mode to stabilized mode again to pop it up in case I needed to, or pull the other switch down for an auto land. It never did come to that point, although it got, in my humble opinion, within 6 feet of the ground. I'm going to have to look into that and ask 3DR about that. I also put on 4 little wooden legs today so that the frame is high enough where the battery doesn't touch the ground. That added about 40 grams. I hate to do that. I'll find something lighter. Perhaps some large diameter carbon fiber hollow tubes. We'll see. But I was real pleased with this, except for the altitude problem. Well, it's not really a problem. It's a discovery today, and that means we will find the fix. It did run 10 minutes. It would have run longer, but when the alarm went off, I went from auto to stabilized. It didn't go shooting up. It didn't fall. It did go up a little. You can hear how nice it sounds. This is just really, 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 really sweet at this point. I've never been so pleased with the flame wheel. When I get the second battery, the duplicate of this one, I don't even know that I'm going to try with 2 batteries. I might get 15, 17 minutes. I think I'd rather have 2 batteries where I get 2 10-minute flights rather than 1 17-minute flight with a more agile platform. I will test it, but also test some 11-inch props, some 10-inch props. So this one really did well today. Didn't crash like the quad. Besides the altitude not staying at the 30 feet, there were no problems with it whatsoever. It's just really, really sweet now. I'm going to walk up so you can hear how sweet it sounds. Waiting on the 10-minute alarm. systems, and I flipped it into stabilized mode out of auto. So I need to adjust that perimeter down just a little bit more. It doesn't hover at 50%. I immediately flipped it into auto land, and this is an auto landing. Several tests of several systems going on here. Wonderful platform. Let's look at the telemetry for that run and see if I got what I wanted. Look at voltage over the 10 minutes. A little bit of a spike there for some reason. That could be a transient, seeing it's basically 3 data points. But the voltage on this is just really, really, really smooth. And it looks like the last voltage here at the 10-minute mark was approximately, looks like it's above 14 volts. So I am really well in the area that I can run 10 minutes. Now I am going to set a battery failsafe, so if I'm horsing it around in the 10 minutes and it goes to a lower voltage that would harm the battery in that 10 minutes, it'll go ahead and failsafe on the battery. But I'm probably going to set that towards 13.4, 13.6. Let's look at the current real quick. Current just as steady as a rock until I took it out of auto mode at the 10-minute mark, and the 50% throttle was more than hover, so it popped up. I immediately put it into auto land. I did kind of slip it sideways a little bit with the control stick, but it was already in an auto land at that moment. And the battery current is just, it drops as it starts down in altitude and lands. Just really, really great. Would like to look at the altitude if I can find that real quick. Not sure that was altitude. No, I don't think that's altitude. If it is, it's upside down. Might supposed to be altitude, and the software's not quite worked out yet. Let's look at, where's IMU? Look at some of the gyro data. Nice smooth gyro data on the X. Really smooth on the Y. Nice on the Z. Let's look at vibration in the accelerometers on the X. Yikes. Oh, 0.1. That's actually so little. If I come up here and change the scale, that's changing the time scale. It's less, it's like 0.2 to 0.3, I mean 0.6-ish or so. It's not even 7-ish. It's not even up to a full thing. So that's really sweet. Let's look on the Y. It's 1G. I think the 3DR recommends if the vibration is 30% or less, you're cool. I'm setting it less than 1.5. Vibration, got some spikes in that one. Still much less than the 30. I don't actually have a second. There are two IMUs in it, I'm sorry. And the second one, gyro, still very, very clean for vibrations. Accelerometer, a whole max 1 and 30 is sufficient. Oh lordy, doesn't vibrate very much on the y-axis at all. Z-axis, some spikes, but overall normal vibrations really, really small. I would really like to see the altitude, but I'm not quite sure where that is in here, and we're not going to be stumbling around right now as a class. This is just a demo. Have a good one. I went back and found the altitude. I'm going to have to go back and look and make sure I told it to go to 30, because the altitude here is a pretty constant. Yeah, I'm sure it started out at 30. The altitude here is pretty constant, 8.5 feet. And it jumped up when it came out of auto mode into stabilized mode, and then did our landing. Also, this is the barometer's altitude. It's right at 8 feet and did the same thing at the end. So that's about 22 feet of movement. I have to talk to 3DR about that one perhaps. After I verify, well, again, it pretty much went to 30 feet like the other one. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was told to do. Looks sweet when you overlay the barometer altitude with the regular altitude. Barometers in red, regular altitudes in green. They're just staying right together. So, gonna have to look at that. Okay, let's get ready for the flight. You see it's in stabilized, armed. Flip it into auto. Up she goes. Heads to 28 feet, around 30. Comes right back down to 26 or 25. Pretty much stays there the whole time. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through about 8-9 minutes right now. Pretty much stays at 25 feet according to the Pixhawk, but you and I saw that it came from 30 feet down towards 5. I have to go back and look and see how quickly it did that to see if it stabilized out. Now I set it out on the porch for about 20 minutes before I flew it so the barometer could adjust to the ambient temperature. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. We're coming up here on 10 minutes. We'll slow it back down at the 10-minute mark. And it's 9 minutes and 90 seconds. There we go. So when it hits the 10-minute mark, you can see just below the altitude on the HUD, I go from auto mode into stabilized. It pops up. I did go back into auto and then into land. I just did auto a second there so it wouldn't get away from me, and then when I went land, I side slipped it to land out of the bushes and stuff. So that's about that.